that's where I first saw him, and I'm like, this guy's going to be an interesting actor. So
Yeah,
I first saw him in
I first saw him in Almost Famous with Billy Crudup, actually. So, but talking about the cold open, how did you feel about that when they had an in media res beginning to the film?
Well, okay, so what do you mean by in media res? What does that mean?
That is a storytelling term where you begin in the middle of the story and then you come back to the beginning. Or a lot of TV shows will do this where it's like you do that and then you have the opening credits, then it's like 24 hours earlier or 1 week earlier or something. And the original, apparently, I'm familiar with it as established in our first episode on Mission Impossible. I've never watched the original show, but apparently they used to do this a lot on the original Mission Impossible show. Where they show a scene from like the middle of it to like really crank up the tension, so the story is building towards this. And I think it works well in this movie, especially where like the stakes are. You get to see the villain earlier. And it's not the very very last. The climax. There's a good 25, 30 minutes actually after what we see in the cold open there. But I do think, and I'm not saying about this film, but I just think in general, that annoys me probably more often than I appreciate it, because I feel like it's kind of lazy. Like, all right, we need to hook the audience and we need to build some tension, but our story isn't really going to do that for a while. So let's just throw in this really exciting scene from later in the movie. Or sometimes on TV shows, I feel like they run late on the runtime and they're like, crap, we're about 5 minutes late. Can we just make this one scene the teaser? So what do you think about that storytelling technique?
Normally, I don't like it as well. Like, it's very rare that it works for me. Like, I podcast on Star Trek Enterprise as well, and there's an Enterprise episode called Impulse from season 3, and the teaser is literally like 30 seconds long. It's like T'Pol screaming, and then like they come back from the break, and then it's like 24 hours earlier, and it's like,
I don't know. That episode totally ran short. I guarantee it.
Yeah, I don't know. That doesn't work for me. Normally it doesn't. In this one it does. See, but the interesting thing about this one here is when you're first watching it, though, you don't know that this is like something that would happen later in the movie and then you're going to go back on. Because, if you remember in the first movie, like they started that movie in the middle of a mission. Right? And so, I mean, like the first time that I saw this, because again, I just saw this for the first time this past summer, right? Because I'd given up on Mission Impossible 2 was my last one that I watched.
Oh, yes,
and
I
so
forgot.
I hadn't seen this until this year. So when I watched it this summer, I just assumed that this movie was starting at the end of a really bad mission, like a mission gone bad.
And you don't know who that girl is at that point, right? You just know
exactly.
It's another person that he's been involved with in some capacity, and now she's dead.
Yeah, it could be another another Mission Impossible agent. That's what I was assuming as I was watching the movie the first time, right? So I thought it really worked really well because, when they go back, and I think the first image after that is Tom Cruise opening the fridge, right?
Yeah, with that girl.
It's like, okay, so now what is this? What's going on here? So, and then you recognize the girl and you see what's going on. And I was watching it with Aubrey the first time that I watched it as well, and I hadn't seen it before. So this opening scene just starts, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like how bad is this scene going to be, and what are they going to show? And so, like, I had Aubrey kind of, like, as the scene was building up, the first time we watched it, I made her close her eyes because I'm like, I don't know how much they're going to show in this movie. Because, again, I'm pretty new to the rest of the franchise. And I'm glad with the restraint that they showed in the film. Because, again, that's one of the things that I really like about this movie is, for the most part, this is a pretty family-friendly genre of films. There are actions and whatnot for a little bit. Aubrey's 8. I might be pushing it a little bit, but, I think she can handle it.
Well, I think the most gruesome thing in this movie is when the bomb explodes in Kerry Russell's head. And you kind of see her eye. I'm like, oh man, that's just a gruesome, brutal way to die, right?
Yeah, a crazy special effect, but then it sets you up for later on in the movie, right?
Yeah, it's Chekhov's defibrillator.
Chekhov's defibrillator.
Well, also you have Chekhov's lip reading as well. Like, there's a lot of little things. Yeah, go ahead.
If you listen to the commentary, they talk about that. They simply inserted that. Like, this is one of the movies, like, this is the first one, and I think that we'll find this as they're going on. I'm kind of surprised that you didn't mention it in the history of the movie and whatnot, but it's like they were adapting the movie as they went, and they were changing it as they were going along. And so on the day that they filmed that party scene, they're like, we should show this scene of him reading lips. That's how his work can apply to his home life. And then later on in the movie, when they captured him and they bring back the lip read, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, we've already set this up in the movie," and they didn't even realize it. They didn't plan it that way, you know. And there was certain other things that changed, like that guy in that opening scene, the guy with the broken nose, was the original bad guy in that scene. And as they were filming it, somebody came up with the idea. They're like, no, I think it was J.J. Abrams. They're like, this has to be Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Oh, right.
As
Yeah.
scene.
Yes. Yeah. They wanted the henchman to say it. Now, I had thought that meant, and I know what you're talking about. I thought that meant like they wanted the henchman to be the one counting, but Philip Seymour Hoffman wasn't even in the scene.
Right.
Wow.
And they're like, we've just given all your lines to Philip Seymour Hoffman, and the actor was like, that's fine. Right? But it was one of those things where they're like, you don't see it until somebody brings it up, and you're like, how could we have not seen it? And they talk about that in the commentary as well. How could we have not realized that this scene has to be Philip Seymour Hoffman's character?
Well, yeah, it doesn't surprise me that Alex Kurtzman and Bob Orsi didn't like craft this brilliant story on purpose. They just kind of stumbled into it. This is from the writers of Transformers and The Mummy and The Amazing Spider-Man and Star Trek Into Darkness comes Mission Impossible 3.
This is the best of all of the ones that I've seen out of those.
Oh, absolutely. Like of the bad robot team, as it would become, right? You have J.J. Abrams, Bob Orsi, and Alex Kurtzman. And yeah, this is by far that team's best movie. So
I credit it all to Tom Cruise.
Well, so what did you talking about, his love interest and stuff? I thinking about like the movies and all this, it's interesting seeing this one again, right? It reminds me why I didn't like 2 so much at the time, because I'm like, okay, this is what a Mission Impossible movie should be. Like this feels like espionage and all that. It feels like a natural progression from the first movie, but it doesn't feel like this is some crazy departure. Like you could take out the second movie. Like you really could. Like if there's any franchise where you could do that and remove it and have zero consequence, you could take out Mission Impossible 2, right? And you could just assume at the end of the first movie.
As we talk about these, as we go along, you could, like Mike said it last week, you could take out Mission Impossible 1 and 2.
Well, yeah, I get that, but what I'm saying is I think you could draw the line between 1 and 2, where it's between 1 and 3, where it's like, at the end of the first one, he gets that phone call, right? Because he says, I'm going to go take some time on my own, and you could assume that he got that phone call and he comes back, but he's going to be like a teacher or something. And then
he was on the plane at the end of the first one.
Right, and he gets the message or whatever it is, So you could assume that, like, okay, he went off and he started a family or whatever, or was going to, met this girl, they fell in love, and then he comes back as a teacher or something. And you have the previously established relationship between him and Luther, which I think in this movie actually is the best. Like they're finally paying off the fact that these guys have been in 3 movies together. In the second one, like we were talking about in the last episode, he could have just been a guy. Like there was nothing to do with their friendship really in Mission Impossible 2, but in 3, they've been together a long time, and that bond shows because he's like, look, man, here's the deal. I'm going to give you some advice about life. Like, I love how he's talking to him about this stuff on missions, and you really feel like these guys have been through some stuff together, and they care about each other. And that's when it really, like, starts to pick up. So I would not give up Mission Impossible 1 because I really enjoy that film. And I think it sets up
I agree. I'm glad that we have it. So,
speaking of returning characters, like, the helicopter pilot, like Mike was absolutely right in the last episode. Like Billy from Mission Impossible 2 totally could have been the what's his name from this movie. His name, like I keep forgetting it, but John, not John Rhys Davies, but but you guys know who I'm talking about. So I mean, he's literally flying a helicopter. Like, why not just bring the guy back from the last movie who flew the helicopter? I don't know, whatever. So.
I wonder why they didn't do that. Like, I don't know if they just wanted to disassociate themselves from the second one.
Yeah, that might have been it. I mean, like, again, like, Tom Cruise, he looks like he doesn't look exactly the same he does in the first one, but he had that very distinctive look in Mission Impossible 2, and his hair is cut now, and he's looking like Tom Cruise again. Although I did laugh when he's near the beginning of the film, and he, like, drives to the airport on his motorcycle with his sunglasses. Like, okay, we're bringing that back from the last movie, huh?
No, that was I keep referring to the commentary. They're like, JJ's like, that's my Top Gun shot. Mm-hmm. So, because in Top Gun 2, Tom Cruise is riding a motorcycle like that.
So completely unaware of the fact that they were referencing the previous film. So
yes,
anyway.
they were.
But no, but I really do love the stuff with like Luther, where he's like, "So you guys have something going on?" And Ethan's like, "She's like my little sister," and Luther's like, "You wouldn't sleep with your little sister, right?" Like that's, and like he says, like, "Hey man, somebody's got to ask it, and who are you gonna talk to about it than me?" You know. So right. I like that bond they have.
Yeah, that builds on their friendship that they've got. Totally, absolutely. And we do get that because we've been with them together for 3 movies now.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I love the aspect of, him getting married and him falling in love and him having this wife, because I don't know, like I believe the relationship in this one. Like I don't really believe he fell in love with that woman in the last movie.
Well, yeah, because we saw the whole relationship. We're like, well, they just met and they had some like car chase together, right? It's like really... but in this one, I think it's very smart where you don't see any of that. It's just you accept the fact that they're a loving couple because the movie shows you together and you could tell they care about each other. But we didn't have to see the whole like, oh, they met and they fell in love and all this stuff. Like you skip all that and get to the action and it just you're like, okay, cool. He's in a relationship now. This is his wife. Let's go. You don't get bogged down by a love story.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. I like it. I think it's good, and I think it's a really interesting take, and I think it's a good direction to take the franchise in. And as we'll see in later movies, it's neat how it pays off, and it's neat how that plot line builds in future movies.
Now, another thing I really liked about this movie is they establish how we finally see how they build a mask. What did you think about that?
It looked like they were taking something styrofoam, and it looked like it would be really messy.
Well, I mean, how else do you think they make these in the field, man?
Well, vacuum sealing. I don't know. I just assumed it was rubber, and then they would just like, those things where you can put your hand in it, and they're like the nails, and then your hand has an imprint. I guess I kind of, if I had to think about it, I guess I assumed it would be something like that. So she took the pictures of them, and it would create that out of the nails, and then they would just vacuum form a mask over top of it.
Well, I liked it. Well, okay, I'll get 5, whatever. But how about how they get the voice chip, where he reads the poem that says every phonetic expression in English, where you could replicate the voice? I thought that was really smart.
Yes, I did too. I thought it was really creative. Absolutely, yeah, because you don't really know what is he getting it to do it? Why is he getting me to read this? What is going on here? But that whole scene...
you're like Philip Seymour Hoffman, you're like, what the hell is this?
Right. That whole scene is outstanding, and it's so tense. Like, when that guy's holding onto him behind the door, and he's got to wait until it uploads and he's coughing. Like, again, like the actions of Philip Seymour Hoffman and the way he controls his body is so amazing.
So we talked a lot about the characters. Let's talk about some of the action of this movie. Like, I really loved all the action set pieces in this movie, like the helicopter chase through the windmills. Well, that's great. That's like,
oh, that's so cool.
That's like going to the asteroid field in Empire Strikes Back, right?
Yeah. It's off the wall, it's totally over the top, but it's really cool because it looks so awesome. It's visually stunning.
And then we have, this is probably the first great Tom Cruise run in the franchise.
Oh, man.
He had kind of a mini run in the first one, but this one is like Tom Cruise running an entire mile in China. It's great.
Both times I watched this with Aubrey, she's like, he can run really fast.
And that's a thread they will continue from this point forward in the franchise. Now, he apparently only he did most of his stunts, as he usually does, but I think he broke a couple ribs at one point by turning too fast. It's really his only injury, which is really impressive considering it's the amount of things. Like when the jet flies by and blows up the car and he flies into the car, like that's just an amazing stunt right there.
Okay, let's talk about that. I'm glad you brought that one up because I don't like that one.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
No, because... the thing blows up behind him. Why does he go sideways?
Because it looks cool, Brandon.
No. That's baloney, okay? You get pushed away from something. You don't get pushed sideways from it. That's ridiculous. I don't like that.
Fair enough. But the talking about action scenes, it's also smart to when to show you action scenes and when just to not show you action scenes, right? Because when he's in Shanghai, well... Side note, I didn't realize how much The Dark Knight ripped this movie off. Because when Ethan Hunt, he's standing on top of the building in Shanghai, I'm like, Chris Nolan just lifted this and put it in The Dark Knight. That's the same, it might not be the same building, but it looks just like the same building Batman was on in The Dark Knight when he's in Shanghai and he's going to the city. But anyway, this whole thing about he's got to break into this lab or where building or whatever, get the rabbit's foot, right? And he goes in there, right? We see him go into the building, and then we just cut to the team waiting. And we're like, I don't know, he's only got a few minutes left, right? And then he comes out, he's like, I got the rabbit's foot. And I thought it was very smart just to skip that, because we all knew he was going to get it.